Information, please. Presented each week at this time by Canada Dry, famous the world over for its fine beverages. Wake up, America. Time to stump the experts. With information, please. The man bites the dog, the dust bites the Indian, and the public gets its revenge on the authorities. In other words, you do the quizzing and we'll do the answering. Now listen carefully because we will not repeat this announcement during this broadcast. You send us questions on any subjects with the correct answers. You may submit from 1 to 3 original questions per letter. If your question is used, you receive $5 and $10 additional if it stumps the board. So you may win $15 in all. Don't get bothered if our editorial staff changes or edits your question slightly. All questions become the property of Information, please. Letters with questions are to be addressed to Canada Dry, 1 Pershing Square, New York City. And now here's our master of ceremonies, Mr. Clifton Fadiman, literary critic of the New Yorker magazine. Mr. Fadiman.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, please, that Information, please, is unrehearsed, unpredictable, uncabined, uncribbed, and unconfined. Shakespeare, Mr. Kieran. Now, none of these questions has been seen in advance by any of our 4 experts, who today include our pair of question-beaten but still smiling veterans, Franklin P. Adams, columnist of the New York Post, and the unbeatable John Kieran. Our 3rd expert has appeared frequently on these programs before, and we're glad to welcome him back, Oscar Levant, pianist and composer. I'm going to interrupt this program for just a minute, and I'm going to ask my other 3 guests to join with me in saluting Oscar on his something or other birthday. These things always come around. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Oscar. Happy birthday to you.
I'm very glad to report that has left Mr. Levant speechless.
It's not my birthday.
Didn't you know it was your birthday?
It is, but it's only alleged.
Oh, it's a myth.
Yeah. I never was born.
Our guest of honor this evening, our 4th guest, is one whose name is known and toasted wherever Yale men gather, and even where a lot of Yale men don't gather. I refer to the beloved teacher, lecturer, writer, and general literary authority, Professor William Lyon Phelps, better known as Billy Phelps. Now, Mr. Phelps, the only rule you have to remember this evening is that I am doing the teaching and not you. Is that clear? You and your colleagues will raise your hands if you know the answer. And if you miss an answer, Canada Dry rings up $10 on the cash register. And that $10 goes out to the lucky question. Now, are you all ready? The first question comes from Mr. Charles Sherman of Los Angeles. We're going to play, one after the other, 5 songs. Each of these songs refers to some kind of beverage. And you are to name the beverage in each case. Now, Mr. Adams, if you want to lift that liquid voice of yours in song, go ahead. We furnish no protection. Let's have the first one. You have to name the song and the beverage involved. Mr. Levant.
And let's have another piece of pie. Let's have another cup of coffee.
Yes.
Let's have a cup of coffee.
Coffee is the beverage. Pie, the edible. Number 2. Mr. Adams.
Brown October Ale.
Brown October Ale. And the beverage involved?
Ale.
Ah, very good, Mr. Adams. Very good. Right on your toes. The 3rd. Mr. Adams?
The beverage is beer. Würzburger.
Down where
I
the
like to hear you
Würzburger
say
flows.
that word, beer, Mr. Adams. I like to hear you say it. Down where the Würzburger flows. Number 4. Mr. Levant.
Ho, and a bottle of rum, isn't it?
Yep,
I think it's from Stevenson.
it is. 15
Well,
men
it's
in a dead
rum,
man's
then.
chest.
Rum.
Yeah, rum is the answer.
But not Stevenson.
Wasn't it from Treasure Island?
Yes,
Mr. Adams?
written by young E. Allison.
Is that right,
But
Dr.
it's,
Phelps?
well, that's right, but it's in Stevenson's Treasure Island.
Correct.
Quoted in Stevenson.
Yes, that's enough for us. That's enough
rum,
for us.
anyway.
Mr. Adams is such a precision. Number 5. You may not have heard of this liquid. Mr. Kieran.
Old-fashioned well water from
Yes,
the
you
old
remember
oaken
it?
bucket.
Yes, the old oaken bucket. Let's have one off the record, perhaps. Top 5. Now, if you don't name this one, we're all fired by order of the sponsors. Mr. Levant.
It's obviously, and under pressure, Canada Dry.
Correct, and under pressure it is. All right, that's 5 out of 6. Or rather, 6 out of 6. The next question from Helen Riley of Chicago. Miss Riley wants you to give 4 common phrases that mention things a pharmacist makes. You know what the drugstore is. It's that little part of the store behind the fountain. Yes. Now, for example, salve your conscience would be one. Salve your conscience. Is that the one you were going to mention,
No,
Mr. Kieran? Let's have another, Mr. Kieran.
You're just an old pill.
Oh, thank you very much. Very sweet of you. That's one. Mr. Levant?
Take a powder.
Take a powder. Meaning what?
To get out of town. Practically
yes,
not to
out. That's
show.
right. That's 2.
Exit.
Exit's right. Let's have another. We have to have 2 more.
What's the one with Winchell?
You can't ask me.
Oh.
I'm asking you this evening. Mr. Levant?
Lotions. Lotions of love. That's a little
Oh,
sentimental.
come. Lotions of love. Did you really say that? We'll allow it on my program.
It's my birthday in Winchell, you know.
Even if it is your birthday.
Well, how dry I
can't let it
am.
get by.
Lotions of love.
You're going to stick to lotions
No.
of love. It may be your birthday, but I'm not going to let lotions get by, Mr. Kieran.
That's the old oil.
Yes, that's the old oil. They do make up oil of peppermint, sure, oil of wintergreen.
Acid's kind of general, isn't it? Acid.
Acid.
Acidulous.
They don't actually make acids in a pharmacy, I don't believe.
When the thing is done surreptitiously, would that be all right?
Oh, come, Dr. Phelps. Right at the beginning of the program, too. That's all right after you've made a friend of me, but not at the very beginning of the program.
A drug on the market.
What was that one?
A drug on the market.
A drug on the market. That's very good indeed. To be plastered is another. Or one, probably the most famous of all the productions of a drugstore. How about a date for Sunday? I mean, they make more Sundays than practically
I
anything
like
else.
lotions of love better than that.
All right, you stick to it. You stick to it. The belligerent Mr. Levant. Your birthday's going to your head. Third question from William Jeffries of New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, this is a tough one. Please look alert. Suppose the Dion... Look alert, Mr. Kieran. Suppose the Dion quintuplets decided to hold a family reunion on the last day of the 20th century. On what day and year would they get together? Now, I just put the Dion quintuplets in to make it harder, you understand, that I could make that the present Yale class, Dr. Phelps, if you
Well, that
think
would
they'll
be
live
December 31st of the year 2000.
That is absolutely correct. Was that just a guess, Dr. Phelps?
No, I knew that.
You wouldn't like to...
There
you
are
did know that.
a few things.
Now, that's quite correct. Would you like to explain that to us, or would you like
Yes,
to... Yes,
I would. You see, a great many people think that the next century will begin January 1st, 2000. And it is very exciting. When I saw Mr. Franklin P. Adams' 2 sons tonight, looking very brilliant, intelligent, I knew that someday they will write on a letter, January 1st, 2000. Not only changing the last part of the date, but the first one, the first 1,000 years. But that is not the date of the new century. That's the last year of the old century, simply because, dating from the birth of Christ, you don't have any naught year. The birth is the year 1, you see. And you date from
That's
that.
right.
Therefore,
That's right.
January 1st.
That's perfectly correct and very ingenious. Did you know that, Mr. Kieran?
Yes, but I'd like to hear him go over it again.
Haven't got the time. It is nice. I like to listen to Dr. Phelps go over that, too. We
Even
haven't
my
got the time.
repetitions are good.
Well, I hope you'll all be here together at that date, Dr. Phelps. I'll be greatly surprised if we are. The next question from Joel Seidman of New York City. This is more or less of a literary question, but you can get in on it if you wish, Mr. Levant. We'll let you in on it. Doesn't matter. What imaginary character would you expect to meet if you strolled along the following 5 streets? I'm going to ask you to get 5 out of 5 on this. 1, the Rue Morgue. Rue, R-U-E, French for street, Morgue, M-O-R-G-U-E. Whom would you meet? Mr. Kieran.
Edgar Allan Poe.
What imaginary character?
Monsieur Dupin.
Monsieur Dupin from what tale?
Murders in the Rue Morgue.
Murders in the Rue Morgue.
Or how, you mean any dead one? Would that do?
I beg pardon?
Would any dead person do on this Morgue Street?
Yeah, reasonably dead.
Well, Dead Ned by John Masefield.
I don't know that. Very good. That's a new one on me. Thank you, Dr. Phelps. You might also meet from the same story that you mentioned, Mr. Kieran, the orangutan. One of the characters in the Murders in the Rue Morgue, the one who committed the murders. Isn't that right?
That's not a breakfast fruit. It's an animal.
Yes.
Just telling you.
All right. That was easy. Now, the second one is very difficult. What imaginary character from fiction would you meet if you strolled along the Elysium Road in Simla, Simla, India? That's a tough one. Mr. Kieran.
Isn't that the Phantom Rickshaw story?
Yes?
There's a woman
Yeah,
in the rickshaw.
that's right. The ghost.
Yes.
Yes, the ghost of Mrs. Agnes Keith Wessington.
Good for
I
you,
wouldn't
John.
blame you for not remembering her name. That's pretty good, Mr.
John,
Kieran.
I congratulate you.
Now, if you strolled along Catfish Row, whom would you meet? Mr. Levant.
Porgy.
Yes, from what place?
Dubose Hayward and Mrs. Hayward, they rode Porgy.
That's quite correct. That's 3 out of 3. Now, suppose you strolled along the Dover Road. The Dover Road.
That's Dickens.
Mr. Levant?
The Scarlet Pimpernel?
Don't think so. I'm not sure.
David Copperfield.
No, I'm sorry. That would be...
No, it
We'll
was
have to count that wrong.
The
Now,
Dover Road
will
was
you
a play
correct
in
me,
New
Mr.
York.
Kieran? I beg
Oh,
pardon.
yeah.
Mr. Kieran?
A.A. Mill?
A.A. Milne wrote a play, The Dover Road. Yes, Mr. Latimer, I think, was the name of the character in it. Or Mr. Lorry
Yes,
in Tale of Two Cities. But it was answered wrongly at the beginning. The Sidewalks of New York. Remember that Al Smith is not an imaginary character, gentlemen. You can't give me that. Mr. Adams.
Me.
And who else?
And Mamie O'Rourke.
Very good, Mr. Adams. Well, that's 4 out of 5, and that's going to cost us $10 going out to Mr. Seiden in New York City. The next question from Spencer Brown, from the University of Minnesota. This is a question involving sports. It's divided into 3 parts. First part, what game is frequently played by opponents 3,000 miles, more or less apart, while playing?
Chess.
Chess, Dr. Phelps, is quite correct, and not the recent duel between Mr. Hitler and Mr. Ickes, for example. 2, in what sport does the team having the lowest point score win? Mr. Kieran.
Golf.
Cross-country running.
Golf, I believe, is wrong, Mr. Kieran, and Dr.
Oh.
Phelps, I believe cross-country racing is correct.
Golf is
Excuse
correct.
me, golf is also correct.
If the
correct.
teams are playing,
Yes, certainly.
Yes. Yeah.
well, don't they play for matches when teams play
Oh,
golf?
my dear, have you ever been on a golf course?
No.
Oh,
I'm
don't
asking
argue
for
with
information.
me.
Well, it depends on whether they play medal play or match play.
Would you like to solve this for us, Dr. Phelps?
If medal play, it's always the lowest score of the individual or the 5 or 6 counted up together. But
Well, if
match
you-
play doesn't count.
It doesn't. If you were in my seat, then, would you allow Mr. Kieran's answer to go by?
Well, I hate to go back on John because he's a dear friend of mine, but I turn him down on that one. Being
You turn him down. on it.
How do you... just a minute, may I
Oh,
ask
Mr. Kieran.
Dr. Phelps a question?
By all means.
How was the intercollegiate team golf championship decided?
Answer that one, Dr. Phelps. Answer
Well,
that
the
one.
intercollegiate golf championship is medal play, you see. That's what I say.
He didn't mention anything about
medal.
medal play.
No, I didn't even mention the word medal playing.
Mr. Kieran's right.
You say that, Mr.
No.
Oh, well, you're just distributing gifts on your birthday, Mr. Levant.
It's getting late.
All right.
All right,
Get
you know,
by.
there's a fellow, there was a student of mine at Yale, when he said, I don't know, we gave him a 0. But when he answered wrong, we gave him minus. So he came up to me and he said, gosh, Prof, he said, I'll work hard, see if I can't get my stand-up to 0 by the end of the term.
Well, you watch Mr.
No,
Kieran
I'm
do
below
that.
0 on that one.
Well,
then.
unless we get over 1,000 phone calls in the next 2 minutes, I'm going to allow Mr. Kieran to get by on that one. In what sport must the winning team move backwards in order to win? This is the third and last part of this question.
Swimming backwards. Backstroke.
Back swimming.
Backstroke.
In what sport must the winning team?
I have
team?
2 people swim back. 3 people.
3 people. Now,
Well,
you-
whenever, how would this be?
Dr. Phelps.
When somebody stages a comeback, not expected, like
That's a pretty idea, but I don't think I can let that one go. No, I'm sorry, we're wrong on that. The only possible answer, I'm informed by properly recognized authorities that Mr. Kieran no doubt will not recognize,
Backstroke.
is tug of war. Tug of war. Would that be right, Mr. Kieran?
Yes, sir.
And you would
Right.
call that a sport, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we
Well,
got one
Rob-
wrong out of that, and
No
that's
money
going to
in it,
cost
is it?
Canada Dry $10, going out to Mr. Brown at the University of Minnesota. Now, the next question is a musical question. Comes from Mrs. R. Lawrence of Toronto, Canada. Lots, and I'm going to ask you to get 3 out of 4. I'm going to ask any one of you that can to play the theme that gives a musical description of each of the following. Now, I know that... could you play the piano, Dr. Phelps?
No, I'm sorry.
Well, you're just...
The only thing I play is the typewriter.
We haven't got one here. All right, Mr. Levant, do you think you can try it? The first is The Adventurous Scamp from Strauss's Till Eulenspiegel. Yes.
There are 2 themes, I think.
Just pick one.
like that.
How about that?
It doesn't have to be exact the harmony. It's the theme.
Well, it's not the harmony. He's asking for the adventurous scam.
The adventurous scam. The
The theme,
adventurous,
you
maybe you don't know what I mean by the adventurous scam. Oh, that sounds very much more like scamping.
Well, you only asked for the... How many do you want? There's the second one. 3?
Let it go? All right. Very good. Now, will you let us have the bewitched broomstick in The Sorcerer's Apprentice from Ducasse? How about that one?
It's in 3 or 4 rounds.
That's right. I recognize that one myself. All right. That's 2 out of 2. Now, Mr. Levant, will you please give us, at a discount, The Cry of the Warrior Maidens from The Ride of the Valkyries by Wagner?
You want the cry, not the ride.
I want the cry itself. Nothing else will do.
Oh, yo, Toyo.
It sounds terrible. Did Wagner write that?
Wagner wrote it.
Wagner wrote it. He must be turning
Right,
over in his
pretty.
grave. Now let me have the love. I hate to ask you for this. Give me the love of Romeo and Juliet from Tchaikovsky.
You mean the love potion, lotion scene?
The potion, not the lotion, Mr. Levant.
The harmony won't be right. Let's break it.
All right. 4 out of 4. Very good. Thank you very much. I hope Mrs. Lawrence is satisfied. Thank you, Mr. Levant. So far, Canada Dry announces a loss of $20. And now, as is our custom, we'll hear from Mr. Cross, our expert on Canada Dry.
Thank you, Mr. Fadiman. Tonight, as is your custom, I'm going to give you a quotation from Shakespeare. The yearly course that brings this day about shall never see it but a holiday.
That's from King John. And I don't mean Kieran, Mr. Cross.
That's right, Mr. Fadiman. And a very handy quotation it is, too, because I'd like to speak about the close kinship between these yearly holidays and Canada Dry ginger ale and sparkling Canada Dry water. For this is the season of celebration when laughter and gaiety are perfectly matched with Canada Dry, the champagne of ginger ales, and Canada Dry water, the club soda with millions of smaller bubbles for champagne sparkle. No matter which your friends prefer, they deserve the best. That's why Canada Dry beverages should always have a place in your home. Your guests will also enjoy playing Information Please, the sparkling new game that comes as a 1939 blessing to party givers. You can play Information Please in your own home, just as we do here in the studio. And I'm sure you can visualize the extreme pleasure of stumping that friend or relative who has always known everything about everything. Canada Dry will supply you with the Information Please game. And later in the program, we'll tell you just how to go about getting your copy.
Thanks, Mr. Cross. Your time was exactly 64 seconds running forwards. Now, beginning the second part of the program. Oh, we have a question here from Dr. Phelps' own university. That's Yale University, Dr. Phelps, in case you've forgotten. And the question comes in the form of a little letter addressed to me. I'm going to read the letter. Dear Mr. Fadiman, here's a question with which I hope to stump my meal ticket. I have warned him for some time that I would catch him. And if by any chance you accept this question, I think that now is the time. Signed, John Francis Kieran, Jr. Now, Mr. Kieran, I think I'm going to direct this entire question at you, and you will only be helped out by the others in case of extreme pressure. Now, if you want to duck out of this thing and disown your son right now, here's your chance. You can cut
I
him
would
off
like
with
to
a
make
shilling.
one remark.
Yes, Mr. Kieran.
From Shakespeare. How sharper than a thankless tooth it is to have a serpent child.
I hope young Kieran is listening to his learned fowl. Very well.
Well,
Now,
boy,
Mr.
excuse me just a minute. I
Yes,
thought of
Dr.
another
Phillips.
one. The boy cut my class one day, and he was the best boy I had in Shakespeare, and so I simply remarked, this is the most unkindest cut of all. Never mind, it wasn't very good, but still, it's...
Oh, that's all right. That's quite all right. It's a very good-natured program that we have.
You don't
It's
have
quite
to be
all right.
very good.
Mr. Adams knows. Now, Mr. Kieran, the following are the second stanzas of well-known poems. There are 3 altogether. I'm going to ask you to recite the first line of each poem. Here's the second stanza of the first poem. Is she kind as she is fair? For beauty lives with kindness. Love doth to her eyes repair. to help him of his blindness, and being helped, inhabits there.
Never heard it in my life.
Oh, Junior, aren't you happy, Junior? Aren't you happy? Dr. Phelps, do you know the first line of the poem of which that's the second stanza?
Sounds like Annabelle Lee. Is she sweet? Is she fair?
No, Mr. Levant. I know you know Annabelle Lee. That's the other poem you know, but no, that's not correct.
Anything to do with Helen?
Mr. Adams, no.
I give up.
No, it isn't Helen, it's Sylvia. Who is Sylvia?
Well,
What
that's
is
what I
she
said.
That all
Who is
our
Sylvia?
swains commend her. That's right. Did you say that, Dr.
Yes, I said, who is Sylvia?
Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. Did he say that, Mr.
Yes,
Adams?
Yes, he did.
On your honor. We all work on the honor system here this evening.
There used to be a famous opera singer here. When she sang it, they said she sang it as though Sylvia were not on her calling list.
Well, the things you know, Dr.
Who
Phelps.
is
The things
Sylvia?
you know. Now, the second one. Do you want to come back into this program, Mr. Kieran, or do you
I'll
want to
try.
drop us
Well,
flat?
stay by me, John.
All right. Here's the second stanza. The bridegroom's doors are opened wide, and I am next of kin. Put your hand down, Mr. Adams. The guests are met, the feast is set. Mayst hear the merry din. If you don't know that, Mr. Kieran.
That's the rhyme of the ancient
Let's
mariner.
have the first line of the poem.
It is.
Why?
It is an ancient
Never mind,
mariner.
boys. Give
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Kieran a
okay.
chance.
Too bad, John.
Was
I'll
an
try and
ancient
keep
mariner who stoppeth one of three.
Oh, it is an ancient mariner. Your tense is wrong.
And he
I'm
stopped
very
with one
tense.
of three.
Yes, if you got a subject, too. All right, that's 2 out of 2
Like a
with the help of
baseball
Dr.
catcher.
Phelps.
He
Now let's
stopped
see if
with
you
one
get
of
the
two.
third and last one, Mr. Kieran. Now fades the glimmering landscape on this... Oh, you know that
I know
one. All
that.
right, Mr. Kieran. Let's have the first line of the famous poem, which that's the second stanza.
The curfew.
Never mind, Dr. Phelps.
These
I
teachers,
wish
you
you'd
cannot
keep me
keep
up.
these teachers quiet. The curfew slowly...
Leave out your adverb.
curfew...
Take your adverb out. Well, I think we've got them thoroughly mixed up by
Curfew
now.
tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd winds slowly o'er the lea.
That's right.
The plowman homeward,
Yes.
etc.
Who was it from, Mr. Kieran?
That's from Gray, Thomas Gray, written in the Stoke Poges Cemetery.
Yes, and I should like to be present at the next meeting between Mr. Kieran and Mr. Kieran Jr. That's 3 out of 3 with the help of Dr. Phelps. Now, what can you do with this one? Coming all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, from Mr. J. Wallace Edgar. What sort of dog is brought to mind by each of the following? For example, if I said to you a breakfast cereal, you would all reply, what?
Husky.
Ah, that's very good, Mr. Kieran. Now, if I said to you a dinner bell, what would you reply? What kind of dog? Mr. Levant?
Those brown ducks. Chow.
Chow, yes. Or perhaps hot dog. If I said to you a cop. Police dog is
dog.
not acceptable. Dr. Phelps?
I was going to say police dog.
No, won't accept
Bulldog?
that. Bull. Yes, bull
Bull.
would be right.
Why not a bulldog?
Well, bull is the
Bull,
species,
right.
I guess.
All right.
3, the Irish Rebellion of 1916. Mr. Adams.
Irish setter.
Irish setter, Irish terrier, or better still,
Bulldog.
we had bulldog, Mr. Levant. We had
Black
it.
and
Mr.
tan.
Adams. Yes, black and tan.
Good.
That's right. That was good, wasn't it, Dr.
Yes,
Phelps?
very good.
Yeah, he's awfully clever.
You
4,
trying to flatter
Hamlet.
me?
No, the mere truth would flatter you, boy.
Hamlet. Mr. Kieran.
A Great Dane.
Great Dane, very good. And 5 and last, chewing tobacco. Mr. Adams. I thought you knew. What was that, a mechanical arm that you put up there? Mr. Levant.
Spitz.
Spitz is right, yes. I think that's pretty good. Very bright on your birthday, Mr. Levant. May I compliment you?
I know a fellow who used to work named Leo Spitz. RKO.
That explains everything.
About dogs.
I'll see what you can do with this one, then. This one comes from Jack Klein of this city. In what movies were the following old-time songs revived? There are 3, and you have to get 3 out of 3. 1, Polly Wolly Doodle. In what movie?
You can't take it with you.
You can't take it with you, that's right. Thank you, Mr.
Kaufman.
Levant. The second, Man on the Flying Trapeze.
It wasn't Rudy Valley, was it? No.
You're telling me. Mr. Levant.
It was Clark Gable. You remember? Walls of Jericho. It happened one night.
It happened one night, that's right. He gets around to it after a while. And the 3, a bicycle built for 2. Very recent motion pictures. Mr. Adams, of course, you haven't seen any recent motion pictures?
No movies, whatever.
Deanna Durbin.
Yes. What's the name of the picture?
That, wait a minute. Melvin Douglas, Deanna Durbin. That's certain
What do
age.
you want to do? Give us all the credit?
Certain age?
Yes, that's certain age.
Certain
That's right.
age.
3 out of 3. Very good.
Well,
Now, let's see what you can do with this one. This is a limerick completing contest. Mr. W.T. Fitzsimmons of Woonsocket, Rhode Island, sends us 3 limericks. And you're asked to complete them. I'm going to give you 4 lines. You give me the 5th. There is one classic line, which is the absolutely correct one, but I will accept anything that is reasonably good and reasonably sensible or nonsensical. 1. There was a young man of Montrose who had pockets in none of his clothes. When asked by his lass where he carried his brass... Mr. Adams, you take that look off your face. You scare me.
I don't know it. I can't stall on those things.
Sorry.
Wait a minute.
All right, Mr. Kieran, I'm sorry.
What did we have to do? Supply a
He
line?
said supply the last line.
He said it was down in his hose.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean, yeah?
I don't like it, Mr. Kieran. The
I don't
answer
like
is...
it much myself.
Well, then we're agreed at last. It's nice to agree this evening once. He said, darling, I pay through the nose. I don't think I'll accept yours, Mr. Kieran. It's a nice attempt, though. There was a young fellow named Clyde who was once at a funeral spied. When asked who was dead, he smilingly said, Mr. Adams.
I don't know. I just came for the ride.
Very good. There was an old woman of Thrace whose nose spread all over her face. She had very few kisses. The reason for this is...
I wasn't listening.
You weren't listening, Mr. Levant? The evening isn't over. There wasn't a suitable place. And I'm afraid that $10 is going to be paid out by Canada Dry to Mr. Fitzsimmons. And altogether, we announce a loss of $30. Thank you very much. Now, in a moment, I'll give you the lineup for next week. And in the meantime, Mr. Cross has a word or two to say to us.
Now listen carefully, because I'm going to tell you how you can get your own personal game of information, please. First of all, we assume that you have a generous supply of Canada Dry ginger ale and sparkling water in your home. So the first step toward getting your game will be easy. Simply remove the large labels from 2 bottles of any of Canada Dry's many beverages. The labels are only glued on 2 edges, so it's a simple matter to cut off a large piece of these labels so they can be easily identified. Then mail your piece of labels with 10 cents to cover the cost of postage and handling to Canada Dry, 1 Pershing Square, New York. If you live in Canada, the address is Canada Dry, Toronto, Canada. Your holiday party will be even more of a party with an information please game containing enough questions for 4 complete programs. So mail your labels and 10 cents tonight. And by all means, don't forget to give us your own name and address.
Thank you. Now, here's a quartet of experts for next week at the same time. We announce return engagements of John Kieran and Franklin P. Adams. And as our 2 guests, we have the distinguished professor of philosophy of Columbia University, author of the successful book Philosopher's Holiday, Dr. Irwin Edmund.
That's a very good book.
It is a good book and a good choice. Thank you, Dr. Phelps, for that endorsement. And we have, 4th and last, the delightful monologist and humorous writer, Cornelia Otis Skinner.
Who wrote another good book?
Thank you, Mr. Adams. We're all working together
She's going to
tonight.
star in a
Now,
new play,
remember,
too.
letters with questions are to be addressed to Information Please, Canada Dry, 1 Pershing Square, New York City. All questions become the property of Information Please.
Canada Dry ginger ale, sparkling water, lime Ricky, and Tom Collins mixer come in convenient-sized bottles for every occasion. These superior beverages are delicious and kind to your budget, too. For the largest bottle, the family size costs only 15 cents plus usual bottle deposit.